Good afternoon. Our next speaker is Ms. Cristina Bautista from the Department of Economics. Her topic would be role-playing, a Tele-Radio program, an authentic task in an economics class.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this session. This is my first time to do such an activity in class, this role-playing Tele-Radio program, and I'm open to suggestions at the end of the presentation. Most of you know me as I've been teaching in the department for over 25 years. But what I'd like to highlight in this presentation, which is related to my class, is my outreach work. It is part of my academic life. I help in organizing teacher training activities in the department, and I've been part of the department outreach committee since I was a junior faculty. And I'm still active member now, even if I'm one of the senior members. For some years, we've worked with other departments like political science and also history and other offices like ACE. And we've also had partner schools like Ateneo and Xavier University. The one you see here in the picture, that's our last outreach before the pandemic. We work with NEDA and the Philippine Economic Society. Now, I mentioned this because it's the context of my class activity. In 2020, when we had this lockdown, we heard about Radyo Turuguro. And so I listened to some episodes and I found it really very interesting and enjoyable. So I linked up with the Friday hosts, Miss Solvi and Denzel, and they're really very friendly and accommodating. And I thought that this Radyo Turuguro has a broad reach and it's a good fit for our outreach during this lockdown. Each episode is short and compact and educational, engaging. And I think it's also a good fit for my class too. It's conversational, smooth flowing, very interesting. Last quarter, I had 2 classes of basic economics, the principles of economics. So with some modification, I thought that it could be an option for the students culminating graded activity. Why not role play a Tele-Radio program? How I did it? So I was not really conscious about it, but actually I did a backward design method. I only realized it when I was preparing this presentation that I was applying this kind of an approach, which I heard already the first time last year in our ADL. So first is to identify the results. And the result that I was expecting is for the students to have a deeper appreciation of studying economics by understanding and showing applications in the Philippine context. And almost always, my course has a research output now. So sharing the research output is important for me. Now, I don't like to be the only one reading their research or watching their video. So I want to see their appreciation and understanding in a major group activity where they will apply their learnings supplemented by additional research. For my class, this was assignment 6 out of 7 assignments last year, which includes already the quizzes. And these are minor and major assignment. This is a major assignment in lieu of a final exam. Now, I was also conscious about integrating some elements of ADL into the major activity, particularly the 5/8s in active and interactive learning. So I want to see a final presentation and there is some creativity, a creative presentation where there is some collaboration, when the content is well researched and authentic, so that's investigate, and the message is clearly communicated. Now, how about the contemplate? This was in the last assignment, which is the reflection paper, an individual essay where I get some feedback and the insights of the students. So what you see here are pictures. These are the 10 presentations that we had in my class. So determine an acceptable evidence in the backward design. I've always thought that this is a creative generation. So I tapped into the strengths of the students. I think that there are many creative students, rich with ideas and adept, of course, they're adept at technology. And given the motivation, they can express themselves well, and they can show their abilities. So I gave them options. You role play a mini webinar or a Tele-Radio episode. For the mini webinar, I've started doing this since the first semester. I thought I'd offer this Tele-Radio episode after I was working with the Radyo Turo Guro as another option this time. So there were 2 classes or a total of 10 groups. 7 groups chose the Tele-Radio and 3 groups chose the mini webinar. Those who chose the mini webinar, these are the ones, the more serious students. Na. And I stated my expectations early on, and the options are in my syllabus. Na. The objectives, the rubrics are already there at the very start. So they know what I was expecting. Like for this final output, my objectives were for them to do research and to communicate their research. Particularly put this in the context of the Philippines, and that they should be able to show this, to explain this in a language that is understandable to a broader audience. Now, the criteria in the rubrics include four things, no? The knowledge and concepts, the knowledge of concepts and principles, the research put into the work, third, the concern for society, and their delivery or presentation. I gave a group grade, which is 32 points, approximately 1/3 of the student grade. And those below are the description of what I expect when I grade. They have equal weights for this one. So my syllabus, the rubrics are more detailed. In fact, too wordy. It's one of the things I'd like to improve on. But these are the main ideas that I was thinking or looking for. Clear, correct explanation, an authentic example with a Q&A portion, use of credible data, that they mention some government policies, that they show their awareness of socioeconomic issues and sensitivity to the concerns of poor households and small producers. And their delivery has to be engaging and interesting with suitable visuals, creatively prepared, and it should be within time, and they should be able to connect with their listeners. And of course, I had to do an alignment check. Will this major activity be aligned with some of our course learning outcomes or competences? And it will, no? So it was able to meet, I think, no, the CLO 3, 13, and 14. These course learning outcomes were developed by a team in our department to apply demand and supply models to explain real-world events, to show desire to help alleviate some of the socioeconomic problems in the country, and to know, understand, and analyze economic topics and issues. No? Now, I'll show a segment of 2 presentations, just 2 minutes for each. So this is the presentation from one class. It's entitled Papas Frutas, a demand and supply analysis of Philippine agricultural export products. Their analysis is largely descriptive based on their research.
With Papa Poo. Yeah!
Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Ako po ay Papa Moo, ang Papa New, the one and only Papa Poo. Ako ay isang professor ng economics mula sa Ateneo de Manila University. Yes, one big fight tayo mga ka-Tele-Radioers. Welcome to Papa's Frutas. So today, we'll be tackling the whats, the whys, and hows of the demand and supply of Philippine agricultural export products. The Philippines is known as a tropical country and one of the largest exporters of agricultural products, namely bananas, pineapples, and mangoes. We've invited several guests to our show today.
Magandang araw! Ako po si Jansky at ang aking pangunahing hanap buhay ay ang pagsasaka ng saging, mangga at pinya.
Kaman Bamanos, I'm Angelu, a fruit trader and fruit exporter.
Hi, good morning po. I'm Sha and I'm here to learn. I'm an econ major.
Good day, I'm Nathan and I work at the Department of Trade and Industry.
Greetings all, I'm Sabrina, the current Chief Executive Officer of Dole Philippines.
Our country's top exports are agricultural products. due to favorable weather conditions and our geographical location as well, being near the equator. However, despite the favorable position we're in, we still sometimes fail to supply or maximize the production of our agriculture export products due to different factors like sanitary and phytosanitary measures, El Nino and La Nina, and many more. Dati, tayo ay ang pangalawang pinakamalaking exporter ng mangga. Ngayon ay isa lamang tayo sa top 10. Paano ito nangyari? Silipin natin ang iba't ibang faktor na nagdulot nito.
Nako, Papa po. Ako'y may mabigat na problema. Nandito nga ako sa iyong teleradyo para humingi ng payo. Nung isang araw kasi, nilapitan ako ng aking amo. Sabi niya, kailangan na ramihan pa ang produksyon ng...
Okay, so that's one example, and you can see the creativity and the collaborative work of the students. So the third step in the backward method would be to plan the learning experience and give instructions. So I described the major assignment in the syllabus as detailed as I can. In fact, my problem was it was too detailed. My syllabus was long, so I still have to work on that. I allowed them to form their own groups. Now, and fortunately, this is a class of legal management students who know each other. Some of them were blackmates, and the grouping was seamless. And those who were not part of the course, the same course, some sophomores, some different courses, I was able to group them separately, and it kind of worked well also for them. But those who know their classmates very well, groupmates very well, did perform better now. They said because they know their strengths already. And then I required a group proposal halfway in the term. Last quarter, it was sometime around the third week, where they show their significance. It's like a concept paper, the content outline, a distribution of tasks, who would do what. I told them that not everyone has to be on camera. Some can be off camera, so depending on their task, their strength, and to give them initial reference list. And fourth, I encouraged them to do a follow-up consultation with me. Now, I think that it should be a requirement next time, because I realized later that those who had group consultation, they were the ones who did very well in their presentation. And then I let them be. Let them be means that I left 1 week without synchronous classes, without quizzes and due dates, so that they could just focus on this activity, polishing and recording, because I told them that it's better if they ensure that it is within 15 to 20 minutes, so it's recorded and they can address technical issues immediately. But they have to be present when they present the video in class, which is in the last week of classes. I also required each student to watch at least one other group work. Now, I did this because I wanted to ensure that there'll be an audience for the different presentation days, because these are already the finals week. But it turned out that it wasn't really a problem for them, because they were former blackmates. They were also interested and curious about what their other friends did in their group work. So some attended more than one. I required an individual reflection paper to give me some feedback on their own experience, if they were happy in the roles that they took, if they wanted to have done more things, and also on another group's work, whatever group that they watch. So this is another segment in the second section, EconTouhan. And in here, they really anchored it on the current events. Now, this one is different from the other one because it's more like a business-like podcast type of Tele-Radio program.
Good day, everyone. I'm Kyla Adorioso. And I'm Bianca Menendez. Welcome to EconTouhan. EconTouhan is a podcast about exploration and aspects and analyzing factors surrounding the business and economy of the Philippines. Today, we will be having a kwentuhan and sharing session in order to better understand the current issues that we face and provide more insight on how it affects our society. COVID has truly affected the world and changed the lives of a lot of people. In this episode, we will be talking about the COVID-19 pandemic and its effect on businesses. I completely agree, Carla.
Okay. Now, what did I learn from this experience? To focus on the outcome by design and not by default. What I mean is that my default for me as a teacher, I'm a traditional teacher, is to lecture. No? That is especially the years before the outcomes-based education. But I learned the term by design, and it sunk in me only last year, when I was attending ADL. Maybe I was doing partly this thing or this method before, but I wasn't too conscious about it. But by design meant now, as I understood it, to be more deliberate in your planning, to have more intentionality, to really carefully plan things so that you do not leave too much room for coincidence, for chance, or just hope. Well, hope is good, to hope for good things. Yes, but what I mean is that you lecture and then you just hope that in the future, someday the students will appreciate my lecture. So to me, it's not like that. No, you prepare the lesson well so that you focus on the outcome and deliberately design the content and the plan so that you generate at least some clear, even though it's not the final result that you're looking for, but a clear appreciation of the lesson. And then to tap the strengths of the students by giving them options, looking for the things that they are good at. And in Module 0, we did that. We partly did that because I asked the students, when they introduce themselves, what are the things that they like doing, what are their interests, what are they good at. And also because these classes we used to be blackmates, no? The students were blackmates, so they know each other's strengths. What I can improve on, to be more straightforward in my instructions, and to be clear and concise in the way I word them and explain them, to polish the details in my rubrics, and to develop an easier way to integrate peer rating into my grading system. I did peer rating before in the first semester, but I felt that it was tedious, time-consuming, and when you're summarizing the grades for submission, it takes really more effort to put these things together and get them integrated into your grading system. So I did it using an Excel and then a Google survey. So I thought that I still have to work on that one to develop an easier way to do peer rating, because I know it's also important. For this one, I just graded them by myself. And finally, what really motivated me to join this Ateneo learning exchange this afternoon is when I read comments of my students. This is in their reflection. There's no right or wrong answer. I just gave them 2 points for submitting their answers to the guide questions. So this one that really struck me. This Tele-Radio project will definitely go down as one of the most memorable academic requirements I've done in Ateneo. More than just learning about economic concepts, this project encouraged us to research deeper into the current economic situation of the Philippines. I'm beyond pleased with the outcome of our project, and I believe that our good team chemistry is reflected in the overall quality of our video. To be honest, working on the Tele-Radio felt like we were just bonding as friends. It was easy to work with my group because we've known each other since first year. We knew what to expect from each other, so we delegated tasks based on each member's strength. I'm grateful for Nathan, She, Sab, Angela, and Matthew because they've treated me like one of their blackmates. the one who wrote this was one of those in the Papas Brutas. So my acknowledgement, I'm grateful to both classes. They were really very cooperative last quarter. And I asked permission of these two groups that I would use their video for this presentation. Thank you.
And now we will formally open the Q&A session. I will now allow participants to unmute themselves, or if you would like, you can send your questions via the chat. We have one question po. Did you require the groups to comment on the group presentation that they watched?
Yes, they are required to put it in their reflection paper, but after these presentations, we didn't have time anymore. Remember, the last quarter was compressed. We didn't have time to meet again, so I wasn't able to share their comments about the other groups that they watch. So I was the one who was able to listen, no, or to read these comments.
Follow-up po, maybe a similar assessment pedagogy can also be used for our social science 13 class.
Yeah, I think so. It's very flexible thing, and Tele-Radio, no, it's engaging, it's conversational. You can talk about issues. And really, from the feedback that I got, the reflection papers, there were really more students said that they were happy doing it. No? Even those who were not really part of the block. No? First, they said, I was initially hesitant, like a student coming from a math department. I was initially hesitant, and then later on, I realized that there's something that I can contribute. So whether they were part of the block, student block or not, I think they did well. No? There were some, of course, suggestions shared about the work that the others did. But as I said, ideally, I would have shared it to the other groups, but I didn't have the time anymore. Yes, Miss.
Hello, good
Hi, Jeff.
afternoon po.
Hi, good afternoon.
I'm Dave from Xavier University Senior High School. And I would like to affirm your activities po kasi upon reflecting, I've realized na for me as a teacher on the online class, also teaching economics for senior high school, I am only focusing to the content, which is the paper lamang, tapos yun, question and answer. Which this activity provided me an alternative way, a creative way which students could perform. And maraming salamat ho kasi it invites us teachers to innovate our learning space with our students. I didn't imagine that Tele-Radio was really fitting for online class. Of course, I listened to Tele-Radio, but never the chance na students could pull it off. And second part is they know their roles. No, the students from government sector like DTI or students coming from the local sector, such as the farmers or the fisher folks, they really understood their role. So for me, parang it's good that I could go back to my fellow teachers of economics and we could rediscuss on how can we innovate maybe our performance task as a final presentation, like a radio skit, no? So it's very, very nice. Maraming salamat ho.
Thank you too, Dave.
And I'm familiar with your office kasi some of your students were collaborating with us sa PJPS, sa Bilibid. Students were studying informal economics under the prison system and I guided them.
Thank you, Dave.
Yes po.
You know, it was good that my classes last quarter were composed of 2 blocks of legal management students who are very cooperative from day one, were open. But really, like the other teachers, I also had problems during the synchronous classes. Very few students were turning their camera on. No? So I wasn't sure that will they be as, no? Will they really give their full effort by the end, since the first several weeks they were not really opening their cameras on. No. But eventually they did and they enjoyed. Yes, Skilty.
Hi, Doc Nina. Yeah, thanks for sharing. No, I actually before the pandemic, yung face to face pa tayo. I had role playing activities then in Soksai 13. Um, pero hininto ko siya sa pandemic kasi inisip ko baka mahirap gawin. But now that you shared your activity, feeling ko doable siya, no. What I do in my Socksai 13 now is the podcast, no, the podcast thing, no. So may assigned topic tapos kukwento sila. I-clarify ko lang po yung this is a summative assessment, tama po ba?
Yeah. It
Summative
takes,
siya, 'di ba?
yeah. Mm.
Ano yung mga formative assessments before this? How do we make sure that the students really know the concepts before they do the podcast or the teleradyo?
Okay. We have my formative assessments are really the discussion of my class mga concepts in class, the exercises. This is the major activity which had mga the 6 out of the 7 requirements. So prior to this, they had a group consultation and group proposal. I think the only formative assessment related to this major activity was in the group consultation, which I only encouraged, but I did not require. I should have probably required it because, as I said, those who attended, those who consulted with me were the
Yeah,
ones who did well. No, the others didn't. No, but so and then so ayun lang formative related to this one. Then the others are just the usual exercises,
right.
quizzes which are graded. No?
Thanks, Doc Nina.
Yeah. This is really my first time also to do a role playing, especially online, in an economics class. I did not do it this talaga. Yeah. Hi, Pat. Yeah, I just read your comment. Yes, go try this one. Actually, as I mentioned, we also did mini webinar. The mini webinar was also good. It's just that, and I did it in the first semester, and I was also happy with the result. But I just enjoyed this one because the mini webinar, the students were more formal, like reporting. It's like a reporting, like a panel discussion. But when after I was watching Radyo Turo Guru and I told my students about my engagement in outreach, I said that maybe you can try this. But it's still an option because I do not know the personalities of my students. It will take a certain type of personality to be a little more entertaining in class, diba? So those who were more, I suppose, more serious, they chose the mini webinar, and those who would like to enjoy, to do something more fun. So they chose the Tele-Radio, and 7 groups did choose that one. So it's probably one way also that they could be just more relaxed instead of more formal, and still deliver what was expected, or something different, something where they can be more creative.
We have we can have one more question for Doc Nina if there are not. Okay. If there are no more questions, thank you for that wonderful discussion, Doc Nina. Unfortunately, our time is almost up. However, if the participants want to share their thoughts about this session, even after our time slot, they can go to gbseal.online/share and see other participants who also shared their thoughts in other rooms. This is our last session for the day. So you may stay for a bit if you'd like. But we will be closing the room in a few minutes. So thank you and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you, Bianca. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you po.